Hello there, Unlearners. Welcome to this episode of the Unlearners podcast. It's myself, Zanele Njapa, the Unlearning Lady, and I'm thrilled to have you as part of today's conversation, speaking to someone that I just couldn't wait to speak to. Firstly, because of the phenomenal work that iSchoolAfrica does. And Zulaikha is going to get to tell us just a little bit more about that, because I really want the world to know the fantastic work that you are doing. But also this recent award we were talking about before we went online. But just to introduce you, Zulaikha Goolam from iSchoolAfrica, who does phenomenal work. And I think, Zulaikha, before we even start,
the Unlearners. Learn, change, grow.
Welcome to the Unlearners podcast. And maybe as you feel yourself into this room, maybe tell us a little bit about how powerful this organization truly is.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very excited to be here and very excited to share with you more about iSchoolAfrica. And you said phenomenal, and that's I love the word, but it's almost like an understatement, because when I talk about it, I'm going to show you like how much phenomenal there is in every aspect of it. So it's like phenomenal times 1,000. But thank you for the introduction and for having me and for featuring iSchoolAfrica.
Of course.
So a little bit about iSchoolAfrica. So iSchoolAfrica is an NPO. We were founded 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Well, this year's going to be 16 years ago.
Aww,
yeah, it's
sweet 16.
Yeah, it's all sweet 16 actually. We were founded in 2009. And so that was many, many years ago when technology just started coming up as a thing. And we have grown and grown and grown. And 15 years later, we can say that we are still bridging the educational gap by bringing technology to your most under-resourced areas and really future-proofing all our learners in South Africa for the future with the tech skills. If I can tell you, like, a learner that never before even has played with an iPad can now use it for learning through iSchoolAfrica. So what we do is we take your hardware, which is your Apple iPads, together with your software and teacher training to your schools. But we rely, to be able to do this, we rely on corporate social sponsors. So businesses or individuals to sponsor our programs, or government. And what they do is they sponsor a full program. So you choose a school, or we go to a school and we give them the iPads in a transportable mobile case, which is secure. So
yeah, I've seen it. It's so cute.
And it's so versatile. You're just like, I wouldn't take it to the airport, but
okay.
Yeah. Just for safety reasons. And yeah, they get the hardware, they get all the software that we preload for them, all aligned to curriculum. And we don't just dump the technology with the schools. We completely immerse ourselves in the community with the teachers. We train the teachers, chat to the learners, and then we have an ongoing relationship with them. We monitor the sustainability, we evaluate our programs. So it starts with a small little sponsorship, and it grows into a relationship of empowerment, of education, and education keeping in line with technology and empowering these learners in a way that it's not just empowerment through giving them a new textbook, it's empowerment on such a large scale. So yeah, that's very basically.
Yeah, it's powerful what just, it's almost like a democratization or an opportunity for access, really, is what you're doing. And I think that when we first encountered iSchoolAfrica, the first thing that came to mind was our foundation and the work that we do around mental health and the potential just for integrating that and working together. There's something really powerful about what you do with that digital divide, because this is often a huge challenge. We work predominantly on the continent of Africa, but this is a huge issue that we find is access to digital tools that will then allow our children to then further have access to their capacity to innovate, because they're sitting there with all of this creative genius and capacity, but if they can't have an interaction with the tools, then they don't get to experiment with all of that. So what have you found working in wow, some of the most underprivileged communities in South Africa. What have you found are some of the key, maybe let's speak to skills that some of these children have that just wow you every day? So over and above the iPads and working with those and the accessibility, what are the skills that are already there?
There's so much. And when you don't give a child an opportunity to show their potential in a way that they are able to, then you don't actually unlock their potential.
Yeah.
And going into these schools, we see so many learners just falling into the crowd of class of 40, and they don't get noticed. And then we interact with them. You give them something that might be a coding problem or something that's different, and you see them use their problem-solving skills. You see them flying. Some of the skills that I have seen is like basically your mini technicians that come out, and your grade 3 learners that know how to fix an app when you're stuck or want to code. It's amazing. And especially for me, the big part is the disability inclusion. So I'm the disability inclusion program manager, and I wouldn't choose another place to be, because knowing that every learner in these schools gets an opportunity to use the device and either have a voice through communication, or they're able to just be creative and draw, or maybe even form a letter for the first time with the Apple Pencil. It's so fulfilling. Yeah. These learners are often marginalized, very often, and the fact that they are in a disability school, first we put at the top our coding, our literacy, and then these learners fall right to the bottom. Yeah. So being able to unlock their potential. Some learners, you'll see them writing stories. Yeah. Some learners, you'll see them drawing. It's really, really empowering and
it's
amazing.
all diverse. And to see it must be just so inspiring. Because at that age group, between 2 and about 5, at that age group, that's when learners, that's when individuals, that's when human beings are learning access. I'm starting to understand what I can access and what I can't access, because of who I am, how I look, where I live, what I know. So that space and time is so critical, because it's helping us to understand. But what you come in and you do so beautifully is because you come in actually after that age group, and you almost help them to rejig that perception. Because right then, if they haven't grown up with access to technology, they've probably already formed the mental model that I'm the kind of child that doesn't have the computer, and that's fine. I'm just going to find a way to make my life work either way. But then you come in and they go, wait, am I the child that has a tablet that I can learn from? Which is such a beautiful shift in how they see themselves, how they see the world, how they see education. So what would you say are some of the biggest unlearnings that you're finding teachers, but also learners experience when iSchoolAfrica actually comes in and you interact with them and you give them some of this access and the tools that you bring?
It's a good question, and I think let's start with the teachers, because the teachers are the easier ones.
Okay.
We automatically say technology, and a lot of people shout. Yeah, they're like, whoa, not for me. So a lot of, especially when we go into our under-resourced areas, because they don't have, firstly, access to Apple technology. Secondly, an iPad. Most of the smartphones it's not an Apple device. Sure. So there's these preconceived barriers that they have to it. These things are so expensive. I'll never be able to use it. What must I do with it after the program? I don't have the skills. So it takes a lot of immersing yourself into the community and understanding those teachers, so that you understand their perspective on how they see the technology and what they see so limiting. Whether they actually perceive it as they don't have the skills. And it's that empowerment. It's like reaching to them, so you can talk to them and say, listen, you have the potential. Yeah. You are going to empower these learners. So there's so many of those unlearnings in terms of their old way of thinking. We get a lot of teachers ask about screen time and safety, and those are all valid. Of course, those are all valid questions. But then we also need to show them that they have to be open to learning how we're able to to address these, how we're able to mitigate these problems. Because yes, screen time is a problem, but there are ways to mitigate it. You can put a child into guided access and lock them in an app. You can block adverts. So we need to really talk to the teachers. We need to give them the experience, let them play with the devices so that they can see that actually, if someone gave this to me in my home as a new phone, I would learn to use it myself. So I can use it for my learners. And then the moment you see the teacher like feel empowered, you see everything change. You'll see, we're having for Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which was about 2 weeks ago, we had a art competition for our inclusion schools. And we got teachers to encourage their learners to create something. And it's all about the teacher encouraging the learner, because we communicate with the teacher, and we got the most beautiful artworks. And it was so lovely. Like, our special needs learners are creating tulips and these cartoon animation drawings where before their potential would go unnoticed. They wouldn't draw this on pen and paper. And then about the learners. So if I'm speaking about your general learner, like exactly like you said, you actually said it so well. They don't think that they would ever have access to it, so they just carry on with life as it is, and then suddenly they get access to it, and it's almost like you unlock a little secret door for them. It's so special. And then take it further and give it to your disabled and your marginalized learners. That's literally taking a massive step forward. Even your older learners, and that award that I spoke about, we just won the Zero Project Award.
Yay!
For breaking down barriers to disability, so zero barriers to disability. What iSchoolAfrica did was they empowered a cohort of young deaf app developers. So these young deaf individuals probably never thought they could ever be app developers. They probably accepted it and went on, and they then joined a learnership, and they went through a full learnership with iSchoolAfrica, and they graduated as app developers, and now they're absorbed by the company. And it's showing a disabled learner that yes, you are disabled, but you can unlearn all those things that you thought like you were possible of doing. Like all your barriers that you expected or thought, we are actually able to we're able to combat that. The world can be accessible. Like, we're not looking at things with the medical model anymore. We're looking at things with the human rights model. We're looking at your disability. You are being disabled because of your inaccess or the environment's inability to adapt and accommodate you. So if we give you the accommodation and the accessibility, you're able to break down those barriers. And that it takes a lot of unlearning and a lot of understanding that you are deserving of this. You might be disabled, but you are still deserving of this, and this is what equity and equality is. It's a lot of unlearnings and empowerment. It's a lot of empowerment.
That's it. And that's what unlearning does. It brings that level of empowerment to an individual. What I'm getting from you, Zulaikha, is that when the digital divide does either shift or shrinks or just goes away completely, other divides also get challenged in that space, in that very moment, in those very contexts as well. And that's what I think you're seeing with a lot of the work that you do is once we remove those barriers to entry around tech, then nothing else should stop anyone, or nothing else really can. Then it just becomes about the individual and what their level of drive is, or what they think is possible, or what they think is accessible to.
Absolutely. And that's the whole approach with the human rights and social model to disability. We say that you're only as disabled as the environment makes you. So, for example,
that's good. Say that again.
You're only as disabled as the environment makes you. So, a really nice example. An individual in a wheelchair. They are in a wheelchair, but that's their mode of movement. That's their mobility. They are only made disabled when there's no ramp. Because if there's no ramp, you are limiting their access. And the environment is no longer accessible. Then you are disabling them. But before that, they are just using a different mode of mobility. And that's how it is with iPad technology, especially with iSchoolAfrica. We're going to the under-resourced areas, especially your disabled, marginalized learners. And we're saying to them, okay, yes, you have autism, you have cerebral palsy, but that doesn't mean that you are limited to what you are experiencing in this environment. What if we opened the doors for you and gave you this opportunity? So you are right, there's so many other things to break down. There's also lots of social and cultural stigmas. There's lots of self-confidence that we need to work on with the learners. And yeah, it's a long journey. It's a long journey.
But an exciting one as well, because I can imagine just watching, being on the ground as these projects are happening, as you're in different schools, and just seeing the impact that you're making. And the other thing as well, Zulaikha, around access and the digital divide is that when you make a difference in one child's life, you can't even measure how much you're unlocking. To speak about unlocking that beautiful little door you were talking about, you're unlocking so many other doors, because that means the way that they see themselves, they interact differently with other people. They're going to teach their children a different narrative about life, about the world, about themselves, and then their children, and it just never stops.
Absolutely.
It just never stops. And I think that one of the things we do, especially being in the space that you're in, is we forget. And we think about the day-to-day, and we just see the child for what it is, and we see the deadlines, and we see this funding not coming through and that funding not coming through, and we get really frustrated. But what we don't see is the cataclysmic or the beautiful, ripples that we're creating on a consistent basis. Is that something that maybe the team at iSchoolAfrica, you keep top of mind to remind yourselves of how big this is?
Sometimes we do need to remind ourselves, because you're so focused on getting the training, going to the schools, communicating, problem solving. You actually forget that I went into the school, or I went into Polokwane, for example. We have a school there. I traveled all the way from Joburg to go to Polokwane. Yes, I did some training. Maybe I feel like, okay, I did some training, I interacted. But you leave, and that learner has now iPad skills. That learner goes home and shows their parents what they can do.
It shows Granny.
Exactly, shows Granny. Granny then goes to her knitting club and tells her friends. The friends go home and tell their families. So it is actually, it's more than just generational. It's communities. The message goes so far. And also seeing the sense of pride that you're giving to these learners and their families, especially those of disabled learners. A parent can say, we have if I can share a story.
Sure, go ahead, please.
We have a school in Stellenbosch. It's called Dorothea. It's a school for disabled learners. You're severely intellectually impaired and you're mildly intellectually impaired. And there was a learner at the school, and they were autistic, and they refused to pick up pen and pencil. It's very common in learners with autism. They have typical learning styles which they prefer. So this learner was about 9 years old, never picked up a pencil, never wrote anything, never wrote his name. They gave him an Apple Pencil with the iPad, and for the first time, he wrote his name. Can you believe it? At 9 years old, and you see he's holding the pencil like all funny, but he wrote his name, and that sense of pride. His family can say, my son can write. He's not just a 9-year-old with autism that can't write and can't talk. My son can actually write. And that pride and that empowerment, and then that family goes and tells the neighbor, and that family goes to church, and they pray and they thank God for giving their son the opportunity. And it's really important for us actually to step back and look at those differences that we're making and the impact. We need to do that more often.
That's such a beautiful story. I love that. And that's the power of access. And I think that if anyone is thinking at this stage of the conversation, what do I do with all of this? Where do I start? Maybe that's what to do, is to think about how do I make it more accessible for the young people in my life, for myself, for my community, for my team? How do I give the access to play with? From this last story, that's what I'm getting, is because we already have the innate curiosity. It's the access that's not there. And when you have accessibility, then the curiosity can play itself out through whatever it is you now have access to. And I think we can apply that across the spectrum to so many different things. Whatever it is that you're looking to build, to be, to show up in a new space that you've never been in, what's the closest way that you can just get access to it? What's the closest way that you can play around with it? We like to call it in the business world your MVP, your most viable product, minimal viable product. What's the smallest version of it? If you're looking at doing something huge, what's the tiniest? right here, right now, today version of it that you can interact with. And as a result, sort of learn from it as well on a day-to-day basis as you go on with it. And see the difference you can make from something like that. It's really, really profound what you guys have built and what you're busy with. I think because you lead specifically the disability sort of segment or function within iSchoolAfrica. And that for me is the part that is just mind-blowing around what you've been able to achieve. So what's next? What are you looking to? What can our viewers and our listeners really look out for? That's a key shift in some of the work you're doing.
Okay, a big one that we've done, and how people can get involved if they like what they're hearing. And I can tell people. So I'm a pediatric speech therapist, and my whole career followed the medical model, treating the disability, the person and their disability, fixing the stutter, fixing their pencil grip. And when I saw what this one trolley of iPads can do for so many learners, it made me believe in large impact. And if you're able to witness it, and that's where the word phenomenal comes in. It's so phenomenal. The case is phenomenal. The software is phenomenal. The learner is phenomenal.
Yes,
that they take
all
it
of
up.
it.
Everything's phenomenal. So I saw for myself how big the impact is, how many learners it empowers. And I think when someone sees that, then automatically they're like, I want to be invested in this. I want to join this. So one of our big projects that you'll see growing is we are currently with CHOC, the Childhood Cancer Foundation.
Oh, yes.
We're with them in our pediatric oncology wards, and we are really bridging that gap between those educational gaps that the learners are having during their inpatient stays, but also that regulation and that fun and like just zoning out and going into the world of playing with the device. Some learners will leave the hospital, or patients will leave the hospital and never be able to play with the device before because they're from a very, very, very rural area somewhere far away. So that's a big project, and we've just moved to a psychosocial phase of that, so you'll see lots of that.
Yeah.
Another big thing is coding for inclusion. So we're not just saying, okay, coding for your learners that are able, but give coding to your disabled learners. Because just because they're disabled doesn't mean they can't code and problem solve. So that's a big one where people will see more of that. And we really do call for corporates, for individuals. If you want this, you don't have to be part of it. You can witness it. Just witness and believe in the mission and believe in what technology can do for a learner. That is where we're going to. We are going to a world of technology. So that's what you can look out for.
Oh, that sounds really exciting. You got a lot in the pipeline that proves just the power of digital transformation in education and what can be done. I'm going to close off with asking you just the following question, Zu, is what is the biggest result that you have seen from the work that you have done? And if you can think about it in terms of whether it's at a global scale or you're thinking about it in terms of something that really does make an influence towards where the world is moving to. Does it mean that the workforce of tomorrow is more inclusive and we're not just looking at balancing the scale or ticking the boxes, but we also get a diverse workforce that also has technological capacity or abilities? Tell me what the huge impact of digital transformation in education is, especially with regards to how you do it. If you've either said, this is not the way we do things, or you've heard a leader say, this is not the way we do things, then I want you to lean in, because you are exactly who we've designed the Unlearning Coaching Program for. Now, the Unlearning Coaching Program is not your regular run-of-the-mill executive and leadership coaching program. It's specifically designed for leaders who understand that unless they change the way they do things, that unless they change the way they see and lead, they are going to fall so far behind the future, it's not even funny. Now, the coaching program is designed to be integrative so that whoever signs up, whoever is a part of the program, really gets the following key features that we find make this a phenomenal opportunity. One, you get an unlearning coach that is subscribed particular to you or assigned directly to yourself. That means as you go through your journey and you apply what the program teaches, you get to have a trained professional who understands the key intricacies of an unlearning journey, shifting how you see things, especially when you're going, this is never going to work. This is the person you can share your intimate thoughts with and will help you through that journey. Two, you get to work alongside an entire group of other leaders coming from various organizations to cross-pollinate, share thoughts with, and journey through for an entire 5 months. And then very lastly, you get to learn from myself, Zanele Njapa, the Unlearning Lady, on an online platform that guides you through 5 key modules around how to build your capacity as a transformational coach or a transformational leader. And this is exactly it. And as part of the Unlearning Coaching Program, you get all 3 of those facets in one, which means by the time you finish off your 5-month learning journey or your 5-month coaching journey, you are the kind of leader that can go back into your organization, see what others don't see, perceive in ways that others don't perceive, but be able to drive the changes that your organization needs. And no longer be the person to go, no, we're not going to innovate because that's not the way we do things here. Or I don't see how that's possible. You get to be a champion of the learning that happens, of the transforming that happens in your organization.
So there's 2 things.
There's
2 things. I first want to talk small and then talk bigger in terms of employability. But the first, one of our biggest successes is, the literacy rate in South Africa is very low. The amount of grade 4 learners that can read for meaning, I think, is 82 or something. So it's very low. So we took our iPads to our schools and we gave learners an alternative to reading, not your books or your comprehensions. We gave them digital books and gave them an alternative. And we saw a 15% increase in literacy rates. So that's one big step that we saw. If we can continue with this, we can see an improvement in our literacy rates of our learners.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And then on a larger scale, we are definitely adding to the economy and the impact of our young youth being able to go into jobs with their tech skills. We're making them more employable. We're making them more aware of the world, whether it's in content creation, whether it's in basic digital skills. We really are contributing to the economy, and especially with your, I always go back to the disability, but with your disability, your disabled learners, most of them don't even see a future after school. And if you give them skills, they are able to go into the workforce. So yeah,
and that's what you're doing. Is one, you're using the access to then also access or unlock the skill and the potential, like you said, unlocking that potential. And that's what we need. And actually, Zoo, this has been a huge conversation in other episodes of this particular season, is access, but also how it equips our learners with the key skills that actually matter. Because textbook learning, yes, will serve you here and there and contribute to your body of knowledge, but it's the skills that carry you through, that carry your capacity to then learn what needs to be learned in the new environment, to cope, to get the work, to add value to the marketplace. And that's what they need. It's that skill and the capacity to be able to contribute. Yeah, I love that. This has been so good. Thank you so much for your time today and for doing the great work that you do. I think I can almost guarantee, don't hold me to this, but I can almost guarantee that our unlearners are going to go over and have a look at what you do and see how they can be a part of it, how they can maybe even just learn from it to implement something very similar, or just to take the idea of access forward and that digital divide that has the potential that I think, as the digital borders between countries, but also the digital divide between those that are able and those that are not, shrinks, then the world becomes that much smaller. But we also all hug, because the world's becoming smaller means we're all closer and we're all hugging and snuggling with each other, and so much more can be done for access. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here and for being so passionate about the topic and sharing the love.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Always such a pleasure. I'll never forget when we met and you brought all of those tablets. I was like, what's this about? But everyone was, I think we got to the end of the session and you were like, okay, everyone bring the tablets back. And everyone was still like, these were adults.
Yeah,
teachers.
they were adults.
Oh, we were just all so thrilled to have you and your great work. Oh, no, lovely.
Thank
You
you
and I
so
could
much.
speak all day. So I'm going to cut it out now. Thank you so much, unlearners, for being part of this conversation today. And remember the concept around access and the power of access. I mean, Zulaikha shared some great case studies and stories that I think will have inspired you, but also encouraged you to go out there and take action in whatever little circle or whatever role of control that you have in your own life, in your professional capacity, with your children, and wherever you are in the world. Definitely take this and run with it, because the future of education really is in the hands of you and I. It's not out there somewhere in the ethers. It's us and what we do about it. So thank you so much for your time today. Really excited to have had you join us. Go over and look through iSchoolAfrica as alongside the Unlearning Children Foundation if you really have a passion about youth and how you can support and make your mark in this space. It's been myself, Zanele Njapa, the Unlearning Lady, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
The Unlearners.
Learn, change.
Learn, change. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. The Unlearners. Learn,